Can someone lose their job due to a sexual misconduct allegation? The answer is it depends. Most employees in Minnesota are what are called at-will employees, which means that they can be fired for any reason or no reason as long as it's not an illegal reason. And unfortunately, that means that it doesn't necessarily take a conviction or being found guilty in court to lose your job. Now, you are presumed innocent if you are charged with a crime in Minnesota, and it's the government's job, meaning the prosecution, to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And you have a right to a trial by 12 jurors who all unanimously have to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt for you to be convicted. Even 11-1 against you doesn't count. However, unfortunately, there are employers that don't honor the presumption of innocence, and even just upon an allegation without any proof, and sometimes even without someone being charged with the crime, an employer will terminate someone's employment. So unfortunately, that happens sometimes. I've had plenty of clients, though, who are able to work it out with an employer and be in a situation where sometimes they can continue to go to work while they're facing the allegations, and the employer does indeed honor the presumption of innocence. And sometimes, as someone's lawyer, I need to clarify to the person's employer and indicate they're only under investigation, they haven't been charged here, or they've been charged but they haven't been convicted, and this is something we're contesting. And people have been able to keep their jobs through that process. Sometimes an employer will wait for a conviction to terminate someone's employment. Other times, some employers will allow someone to continue to be employed. So it depends on the nature of the accusation or the nature of the conviction, if one happens, as well as sometimes the employer's own internal policies or rules, of course. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all analysis. Now, those are for criminal sexual conduct allegations, and I'm talking about allegations that don't involve the workplace whatsoever. So let's say you work for a big corporation, and on a Saturday you're out at your cabin in another state, and you go to a bar and you're convicted, you're alleged to have committed something, and you get charged with a crime for that. Obviously, that has nothing to do with your employment whatsoever. And even then, in some situations, employers, when they get wind of an accusation or if you've been charged, will terminate your employment, even though it has nothing to do with the workplace. Then there are other situations, of course, if it's workplace related. So let's say whether it's after hours or during work. Of course, if it's during work, not only do you have to worry about potential criminal charges, but you've also got an employment investigation potentially going on as well, where you're dealing with human resources and the like as well. And other times there can be situations where something doesn't happen at the workplace, but nonetheless it's something that's alleged to be work-related. That's another analysis as well. So sometimes employers say, listen, this has nothing to do with work. We understand you're presumed innocent. We're going to allow you to continue working here unless and until you're found guilty of a crime. But if it's a workplace-related thing, then you may be facing increased penalties or other increased consequences, such as sometimes being put on leave with pay, or being on unpaid leave, or suspended, or things like that. So it depends on bottom line is it depends on the allegation. It depends on whether it's a criminal allegation or simply a workplace more harassment but not a crime allegation. And of course, it depends on the policies of the employer. Some people wonder, of course, do I have a duty to tell my employer if I've been accused of something? That depends on your employment contract if you have one. Generally speaking, for most employees, the answer is no. But you should look at your employment contract if you have one. So if you're part of a union or a collective bargaining agreement, or you're an executive that maybe has an employment contract, you have to look to that. And of course, some of it also, some employers frankly more forgiving if you tell them up front and you're honest about it, as opposed to waiting to see what happens. So you should definitely talk about that question with your lawyer as well. If you have more questions about criminal sexual conduct, potential employment consequences, or what you should do if you're even accused of something but not charged, and you're wondering about how to handle this with work, you can give me a call. I'm criminal defense attorney Ryan Pasiga. You can reach me at 612-339-5844, or you can find me at arrestedmn.com. And finally, you might be wondering why these are in the background. Everybody remembers the Minnesota Miracle, of course. That was a great outcome in that game. But then I really like this one up here. And this reminds me, not only if I'm dealing with any difficulty in my life, but it helps me remember this for clients as I'm helping them and their family members go through tough times. And what it says over here is, when life seems like a storm, be a buffalo. Put your head down and take a step. And I really like that. My son actually made that for me because it means a lot to me, and it was one of the best Christmas gifts I ever got. Thanks.